here is Tijana, one of, actually the second of our two external speakers. And as I did the introduction for all others, I will do the same now, but I will be short. I know we are running late a bit. To be honest, the first time I was introduced to Tijana's work, it was on TikTok, even though I don't have a TikTok account. So that means that the video was interesting enough actually to be shared, through Viber groups. And I was honestly amazed how she managed to popularize the science, among young people. When I started, digging a little bit more, I found out that she's also a professor at Faculty of Mathematics in Novi Sad, and what is also University of Belgrade here. So the thing is that I really liked and I really wanted to have her here today because I think that education is in line with agriculture, one of the most traditional topics in Serbia. And I really like and look forward to hear your insight on education. So please, a round of applause for our Tijana. So this is your speaker, and I think... I will mute myself now, sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Thank you. Well, thanks for a nice introduction and thanks for having me here. So yeah, you heard a lot today about impact of AI on many different fields, but I'm going to now switch gears completely and talk to you about the impact of AI on making experts that will work in those fields, namely on education. And I've worked in research for 20 years and in education as long as that. Now I mostly work in machine learning, and with AI in completely different field. But as you heard, I also have a dark side, being a how to say influencer on TikTok and educating people in small chunks, in small video formats. So I've been through education in many different ways and have some understanding of the AI, and now seeing how things are being impacted by all this changing world. So that's the question with the theme of this conference is like, is there room for traditional education in this AI world? And to answer that question, we should go actually to the time where actually the main problems started, which is at the beginning of 2000s or maybe end of 20th century. So basically, when we had the third industrial revolution. So when we had this internet explosion and everything, and which basically essentially changed how we get information. Basically, that's what the internet gave us. They changed how we get into information, but it consequently also changed how we communicate, because we had this rise of social networks. So we changed how we communicate. We had a YouTube that changed how we learn, how we actually are learning stuff. So we ended up with having YouTube generations. People who grew up learning stuff on YouTube. Now we have TikTok generations and so on. So, and when all those changes happen, basically traditional education, like in classroom, from the book or using books, has been lagging behind. It has been trying to cope with that, without that changing world. And what happened basically is that suddenly our lives became more and more, we spend more and more time in our digital world than in our 3D world. So basically now the classic like 3D environments like classrooms, amphitheaters, are not familiar places anymore. Like, we now feel more comfortable at our digital places, where we can learn at our own pace, on YouTube and on Coursera, whatnot, and rather than sitting behind a desk, in front of a professor. So what that actually showed the need for change in education, for needing teachers and professors 2.0. They need to change things a bit. The main challenges that we got is, okay, first thing is that information suddenly was not centralized anymore. So first, we learn from the books, textbooks, right? And basically you have to go to the library and so on. Now you can just type things on you can Google things on a computer, now on your phone. So information is not held it cannot only be found in one specific places, but everywhere. Then we changed who the authority is of, from who do you get your knowledge. Before it was professors, it was given. You knew, okay, if I want to learn something, I go to school, I go to university. Those are the people who know stuff. Enter influencers and enter everyone online. Now everyone is now saying that they know something, and you think, oh well, they sound like they know something, so now I'm trying to learn from them, so on. So they didn't you don't get to ask them, oh, do you have a degree? They just show up on your For You page or wherever, start telling you with some authoritative tone about something, and you think that they know something, so they are the new authority now. What also changes is that our attention span decreased. So before we could go for, I don't know, 7, 8 classes, 45 minutes. Now my own attention span, like if I start a YouTube video, if I'm not, if I don't get what they're saying in the first 10 seconds, I'm like, okay, I need to find a better source. So my attention span is short. Everyone's attention span is short now. Also, we are now facing being overloaded, like our senses, like we're overloaded with information. So now, before it was like it was tricky to find information. Now we're being bombarded with information. So now we have to sort of triage, okay, which information do I need? You have so many sources of information. And then now the other problem is that we are now spending more and more time in this virtual space where we feel more comfortable. So how do we tackle that? Like, so these are the challenges. And oh wait, back. Okay, something's missing, but okay. So how we tackle that is, information is not centralized. Okay, so now what we need as professors, as teachers, to do is, well, we have to face it that we are not, our authority is not given anymore. It's like I should not expect anymore my students when they enter the classroom to say, okay, I'm gonna learn from this person. I have to earn that authority, right? That's a shift we as educators need to make. Then we have to also understand that now we have to become also influencers. Not all of us, but actually, if we want to, if we want to learn in all these different ways, now we have to learn, go out of our comfort zones, and also teach in TikTok and YouTube and on different channels. Like, so we have to do that as well. We also have to face that basically not everyone can now listen to me for an hour speaking. So we have to adjust and also offer some micro learning, like TikTok short formats. We also, so information overflooding. What do we do there? Okay, that's the tough part. That's the toughest part, and that's critical thinking. That's the only way that we can now battle being just bombarded with all sorts of information. How do I know which information is good for me? What do I need? We have to start actually putting our efforts in education towards developing this critical thinking muscle with everyone. And now we just have to, like, the fact that we are spending more and more time in virtual space, we have to actually embrace the learning on digital platforms, different digital platforms, and be okay with it, that not everyone is, too happy coming to classroom to learn in the classroom. So basically, what we need to do is this shape. The main thing we need to do is shift this focus. Like, traditional education was focused on learning information because you didn't have phones and computers. So basically, you cannot, if you come to a doctor, someone asks you something, oh, let me run to the library, right? You have to learn all this stuff. But nowadays, that we have everything that we want to know in here, like, we shouldn't be focused so much on actually learning, memorizing all those information, but what we should focus on is how we use those information. Now I can get everything I need with just fingers, but like, what do I need? what information do I need? How do I get it? Now we have to change that shift. And to overcome all that, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about digital literacy, and it's been taught in schools and so on. But that is more, I mean, the way it is taught now, at least in schools in Serbia, is more focused on how you use technology, like digital technology. But digital literacy is way more than that. It's not just how we use a computer or whatever software. It's how we consume and use digital information, how we behave in digital space, and so on. And at the core of it is critical thinking. That's the core of it. And that's the prerequisite. So how we use and how we navigate information nowadays, it's tricky because, like I said, we have so many information, it's easily accessible. So if I don't know something, if I want to learn about it, I mean, especially if the topic is more controversial. And it doesn't have to be like controversial, it pains me to say it, but is Earth round? It pains me to say that that's the controversial information nowadays. But it can be anything from science, from research that we don't have the answer to yet. Like we have different fields of where people think this or that, and it's not proven completely. So how do you get to, if you're trying to learn about that subject, how do you get the information that you need? And you can get you can get wrong information so easily when you're overflooded with so many information. This is again especially true for controversial topics, for pseudoscience and so on, because there's many people who feel really strongly about it, conspiracy theorists who are ready to who want to invest a lot of their time to publishing all those informations online. So how do you fight that? If you honestly are a bit concerned about vaccinations, like I want to make an educated decision, so I want to read about it, but suddenly I've been getting all these false, all these bad informations and so on, where social networks help spread these information. So I search on vaccination on YouTube, and sure enough, there's some anti-vaccination video I'm watching, and I spend a lot of time watching. So algorithm decides, oh, this is what I want, a lot of more videos anti-vaccination. So social networks keep perpetuating and spreading all these informations. So AI-powered algorithms reinforce one's belief. That's how they're designed, because they are battling for our attention. So they want to keep us there. So sure, if I like flat Earth videos, here's another flat Earth video, and so on. But if you're generally not the conspiracy theories, like most people are not, they're just the loudest ones. Most people just wonder about stuff. They're maybe unsure about stuff. They want to learn. And if suddenly, a change happens in science or somewhere that is contrary to something that you learned in school, then you get confused, and that's so natural, right? So and they just want to get to the bottom of it, and they search information, and with all these traps, and it's tricky. So it's tricky to navigate information. So that's why, to navigate in such circumstances of information, what you need is two things: either or luckily both. Either critical thinking, really developed, so that you can search information from both sides. Be aware of your own limitations and search pros and cons. Or you need domain knowledge. You actually need to know that topic, enough so that you're aware of all the caveats, all the issues. And you can do that when you're already an expert. But when you're learning something, it's tricky. Now then you can easily go somewhere where you didn't plan, if you don't have developed critical thinking. And we've seen these problems with pandemic happen because we had infodemic. And what this corona pandemic showed us is that what we witnessed science in real time, right? How science works. You have a problem, we don't know the answer. What's this virus? How do we battle it? So, we had all these different people in groups trying different things. Do these masks work? Do they not work? And because it took some time, all the bad information, all the false information was spreading even faster. And that's when we had infodemics. I mean, in first few days, I had, because I'm an astrophysicist, in first few days, I have quite a number of my friends, texting me about, oh, we heard about this 5G networks, and mask and corona. Is that like, and people were seriously concerned, right? Because that information, I was like, that's the first time I hear about that, so that bad information spread much faster than science actual. Um, and now everything got even worse. We with all this fourth industrial revolution, and with AI. Now it changed, but this changed in just few years how we search data, how we interact with search engines, or not even engines anymore. And it changed even more how we learn. Right now we had YouTube and TikTok generations. Now we're gonna have Chat GPT generations. So now that's even worse. And now definitely even like way more than ever, we need to completely change our education. Like the impact of digital revolution and the internet, I mean, really showed that we need to change things. But sort of, people are still using old traditional methods. I don't think that's feasible anymore. I don't think we now are at the point where we really need to reinvent our education. So when you talk about this, so we needed before digital literacy. Now on top of that, we need AI literacy. And where we currently stand, when you look at professors and teachers and so on, we have sort of a bimodal distribution. You usually you would hope for some normal Gaussian distribution. Now we have mostly bimodal distribution, where people go from either not trusting AI tools at all, not using them, or trusting them too much. Like they are the, oh my God, the know-it-all of everything. That's the absolute truth. What the chat GPT spits out, that's the truth, okay? But we know that we should be somewhere in the middle of it, in between those two. So, um, oh, is it different? Yeah, something is missing. Okay. Anyway, so there are many benefits to using these AI tools, and especially large language models in education. You can get personalized learning, personalized tutor, and I don't know if you play with that. Like even some of them are trained with more empathy and so on. So instead of waiting for your professor to explain something to you, you have chatbots that can be really helpful. New models of ChatGPT basically are very good in actually guiding you through how to solve specific problems. But they also have some limitations that cannot completely substitute tutors. It can be helpful, but not substitute. For instance, I've tested a few of them. So when I'm teaching someone, and when students are not getting it, I'm like, okay, let me try another approach. And students are not getting it again, so I try a third approach, and they are still not getting it. So I'm like, okay, I'm doing something wrong here. Tell me more. Like, where are you stuck? Tell me. So now I start collecting more data from my students. Like, explain to me what is the problem. And when I tried similar things with GPT chat powered chatbots, I tried, I don't know, Pi AI. I don't know if someone tried it. It's like with ChatGPT, but with emotions. And I said, oh, I keep saying I don't understand. And it offered me different explanations, different ways of explaining it, but it never asked a question. Like, because it doesn't know how to ask me a question. Like, it doesn't know to say, I need more data, basically. So they are limited. They're a helpful tool, but there are so many limitations. And and there are many tools for teachers and so on, but there are still a lot of limitations that we need to learn, and that is where we are right now. So we need to empower those in education to use them, but first and foremost teach them about the limitations. And what are limitations? Well, some of the obvious ones are, if children are going to use it, need to talk about data privacy and so on, and data collections. First thing also that comes to mind to some professors, oh, cheating. I cannot give them to write an essay anymore. ChatGPT is gonna write an essay. Sure enough, it is, but there are many other challenges. Um, one one very dangerous one is actually realizing that it's still a model that is trained on finite amount of data, and we know that internet and we know that the internet is not objective. We know that internet is biased in so many different ways. So if these models are trained on bias or wrong data, it will give biased responses, right? It will perpetuate stereotypes and so on. So we need to be aware of all those. And that it's trained on bad information, and we need to be aware that it's going to hallucinate sometimes, and give you answers that you need to doubt and check and double check. um, Also, we should not definitely over rely on them. um, okay, yeah, this is an example. You've seen all this major flop with Gemini, where basically they realizing that, yeah, internet is biased, minorities are not as represented online, as white male population. So they basically optimize their models, but sometimes there's a risk of over optimization. So they ended up with this case where basically these models all refuse to produce white people on images, almost, or produce too many black people on places where realistically there were not black people there. So we need to be aware of those, that those models are limited. We all use some form of optimization to actually get from this imperfect results that they give, and just tune them a bit to make them better, to compensate for these biases, bad data, and whatever. Um, but we need to be aware of all this. Also, what about bad information? What about if someone trains those models intentionally on bad data, right? What Definitely model will give you bad scientific misinformations. So that also is one possibility. So training on incorrect or bad data, by accident or maliciously, also hallucinations and so on. So there was one study by BBC group recently about educational videos for children, labeled appropriate for children, and suddenly they started seeing large volumes of content, and no one can generate that much content. So what they realized is that people have been using AI models to generate scripts, to generate video, to produce in massive amounts large volumes of these videos that are falsely educational, and labeling them as for children. So children have been, basically being fed these models. So now that is easy. Like before, you had to, as an authority, you had to sit down, write a textbook, write a book, and then put in some effort, and or you had to make a video or write a blog. Now you can just generate all that, and basically that now becomes our environment from which we are learning, and we need to be aware of that. So a lot of fake science content can easily be generated that way. And again, algorithms will keep recommending those content based on your preferences, or if it's labeled for children to children. So again, to overcome this, what we need is either critical thinking or the knowledge, preferably both. So what we need to change in approach is, again, from traditional education, which is structured. There's a beginning, there's the end. You need to know which word, what do you need to learn first and second and so on, from the book, from the course. We need to shift from that to something what is microstructured but more digital environment. That is the shape of the modern education that I hope we'll get to soon. So, and that brings me to my example, or learning through TikTok. And I personally have experience with TikTok, but what I like it is because it provides opportunity for digital learning. So it's digital environment, micro learning, small formats. You have your now educators are now influencers, are content creators, and basically it gives you the opportunity to develop, to practice and develop this critical thinking muscle. Now, why basically what makes TikTok different from all the other algorithms is this For You page and how it's consumed, right? All the other social networks, and you were basically, you consumed content through, oh, what my friends are watching and reading and so on. Or on YouTube, what my YouTube algorithm is suggesting to me based on my previous video I've watched, my interests. And what TikTok did differently is, and made an algorithm that makes good suggestions on its own. So you don't follow, oh, what your friends are watching, but something different that average person is watching. And we'd added we added randomness. And why I say that that's important is because, trust me, okay, I talk about physics on TikTok. Trust me, no one search show me educational TikTok videos. That's definitely true. I mean, people have been saying, oh, TikTok is good because you can have zero followers and get viral and get big. True, but if you're creating, for instance, comedy content, uh that's different, because you can say, oh, maybe algorithm just showed that, just realized that you like comedy, you like stand up, and now here's this new comedy channel, let me show you their content. But that's fine, that's how most of them work. But TikTok also shows you some fraction of random content, and you get some physics unexpectedly, and you realize, oh, I actually like physics. So that's what made it different, and that shows us the power and importance of how we train those algorithms, like suggestion algorithms. And that's where TikTok stood out from there. Uh, what's also interesting is that it's really fast. I mean, you can train it really fast. It learns about you so fast. And sometimes people don't like that. But if you're an educator, if you're a parent, who doesn't want their children to watch that, I mean, just learning about that algorithm can work on your benefit. So as a teacher, I would suggest my students, find me 3 educational TikTok creators. And what they do, they search for them. And what the algorithm does next is offer them more and more of that sort of content. So I sneakily, basically, directed their algorithms towards that. That's why I always, what I tell my friends with children, they're like, "Oh, my kid is never gonna watch TikTok." Well, I was like, just take the TikTok, take the phone, swipe fast what you don't want them to watch, like and comment of things you want them to watch, and just give the kid the phone. Retrain a few weeks later. So yeah, I'm just learning about how these things work. You can make them work for your own benefit. You can also use it. I mean, of course, there's also bad content and fake science and so on, but again, that's an opportunity to learn critical thinking. If you learn that in if you use that in schools, and discuss that, that's opportunity to show them like this is bad, this is how you check, and so on. So, is there room for traditional education in this AI-centric world? Well, traditional, structured, from books, no. I mean, like we had a problem even before this AI revolutions, large language models mostly, and so on. But now, no, there's no room. We need something more modern, something. But what I hope is that AI is gonna drive the education to become modern, but it cannot just hold on its own. What we need is also AI and technology to be aware of all these impacts on education, because education is what is actually then making our experts who are gonna work in that field. And we need to actually create those AI tools and models responsibly, in a responsible way. So not just, oh, well, we build this technology and let teachers and education systems figure it out on their own. No, we need to be aware when we are building this model, like how is that going to impact education? What can we do to mitigate it? Like it's great with GPT as a starting point, but the main issue I have is like references. We need references. If you're going to search anything, you need to go. You need to know where this information came about. And I know the way by design that is difficult for language models like what they are. But that is actually something to keep in mind. Like if we're going to use that as a source of information, we need to know where that information came about. So yeah, we need to change our education. And now I think education systems are very slow to change. They're very inert. I mean, in Serbia, that is especially the case. We've been going like, sort of, but we've seen a decrease in the quality of our education. I think now with AI, with language models, I think we'll have to make some radical changes in that sense, and finally, hopefully, end up with something more modern education. But again, I emphasize really for everyone in tech and using and creating all these AI tools, we need to start making them responsibly, and then we having in mind how that will impact our education. So with that, I will finish. Thank you.
Oh, we lost the second mic. Oh, thank you, Diana. Uh, I will ask you, of course, for the questions. Do you want to start or I should start? Okay, I will start. No, wait your turn. Okay, I'm very happy that you shared details on how to train TikTok models because yeah, I will definitely use that. I don't have TikTok account, but my husband does. So okay, we talk a lot about the people who are right now in the education process, but I have different questions just to switch perspective for a moment. So you mentioned at some point that you need to earn authority now these days. But how does your colleagues, what does they think about it? Do you actually lose authority because of this? Or,
Me personally, because of
oh,
this.
I mean,
Oh,
you
okay.
can, yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a people have been it's been tough on people
Yeah, yeah.
dealing with that, and not everyone is happy to acknowledge that suddenly you have all these degrees and all this research behind you, and suddenly someone is questioning you. Doctors. Try going to doctors and saying, "I googled that," or "I read it on ChatGPT." Just, I dare you. Like they will go berserk completely. Like, so no one likes that. But we have to be okay. One example on my own. So I feel that science communication is very important, and I've taught my students when I was at the University of Novi Sad, like astronomy, astrophysics, but also how to communicate science. It was really important for me to teach them how to talk about science. And one of my students, she's also talks about science and astronomy. You know, TikTok is way bigger. Has, I don't know, almost 3,000 followers. Astro Alex. I don't know if someone saw her. Yeah. So when I make content, and when someone who follows her stumbles upon my own content and something they don't trust it, they just ping her. Like, yeah, Alex, is this true? What is this person talking about? And she was my student. And like, I could be like annoyed. Well, I was her professor, but that's okay because they don't know me. They know her. They recognize her as the authority, and I'm happy because I see them double checking.
Yeah.
Like they're like, I don't know this person. I don't know if this person is telling me some BS. Let me check with someone who I do trust. And they ping her. And it's fine. So she earned the authority, I'm trying to earn. So we should, I mean, people are not happy about it. Then you have to
Yeah.
start earning your authority. But I think I think that's very important. Not only online, like in the classrooms, we now have to be aware that when we step in that classroom, that it's not given, that authority is not given by how we talk to students, how we teach. We should start earning that trust. It's not old ages anymore, like, oh my god, the professors and the doctors, they are the you know. So yeah.
Thank you very much for your answer. I saw there is one question here. Uh-huh.
Thank you so much for the great presentation.
Thanks.
I'm a fan. So yeah, pretty much you answered my question. I just wanted to ask. We all know that our educational system is very rigid and very slow and everything. But yeah, how does the society actually accept your kind of showing things, which
uh,
is quite different and quite interesting?
yeah. Actually, if I mean, society in general, globally, in
Well,
Western world accepts it nice. I mean, there are countries like in Holland and in UK, like I mean, in science, people are really we feel that science communication is really important. They expect their students to actually do that outreach. Sure, not everyone is cut out for that. It's fine, but they want them at least to try a bit. And you have some this like all these big universities. They now have their professors on TikTok. Have you seen that
some faces, some known faces.
physicist woman from I don't know Russian, has some Russian name anyway, but they make these videos, like they made the lectures on YouTube. Now they're making these short videos on TikTok. So yeah.
The one you
The
showed,
one I
I
showed,
think,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I think I mean, more advanced systems and countries, educational systems, recognize the importance of it and embrace them. We are still struggling with that, as with many other
And we
things.
will
As
for
with
a
many,
long time, yeah.
yeah, but I've seen a shift. Like when I started doing science communication, like just going give public lectures everywhere, wherever someone calls me, school, some small place, I don't know. My colleagues mostly thought that I'm crazy for wasting my time doing that. Like, you're a scientist. You should. Why do you bother with such trivial things? You should, write papers, do some research. And now suddenly, for instance, I see at the University of Novi Sad, I know, but also in Belgrade, that basically professors now required to do some outreach, because once they are for election to go to assistant professor, a full professor, now they ask them, do you have a paper that shows that you've invested some time in science communication and in outreach? So now it started
So it's
to be
going to
important.
be
We
recognized.
still have a long way to go. Everyone still fears TikTok, because it's not our own comfort zone. Trust me, it's not my comfort zone either. But I know that it's important to do that. And you do get trolls, and you do get awful comments, especially a woman in science and talking about anything. But I know why I'm there, and I'm like, okay, I'm there for some specific reason. You just have to learn to live with it. Not everyone is ready to do that, but uh, we're trying. I hopefully hopefully things are changing.
I believe everyone, but at least myself. I highly appreciate everything you do on TikTok,
Thank you.
on Instagram as well, and everything promoting science, promoting, well, at least bunking the theories and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. That's important because I mean
Yeah.
they're very loud, and there is so few of us in science. I mean, like, okay, like no one is gonna die from believing Earth is flat, like, but from not believing in vaccines,
Yeah, some will
that's
die. Yeah.
so. But usually those things go hand in hand. So I know that
Mhm.
if they don't believe people have landed on the moon or the Earth, the shape of the Earth, or they believe in aliens, you might say, it's whatever, it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal because just trying to disprove that, I'm trying to show them you can think differently and some learning critical thinking.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for the answer. I have additional trivial
Yeah.
question. You use ChatGPT, all
Yeah.
the models and everything, but ChatGPT, uh, you're a domain expert and you are
Mhm.
quite a
Yeah.
domain
Yeah.
expert. How much actually did ChatGPT hallucinate
Mm,
in your topic? Because there aren't many articles and stuff regarding astrophysics.
yeah, I haven't used it that much for that. Um, it did a bit, not a big. It improved from version 3 to
Mhm.
4. It improved significantly. Uh, but I always double check. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
an example. I've read recently on Twitter's, and some doctor was posting this American, that he searched for about some condition, the treatments and so on, and got the answer that, oh, well, the recent studies have been shown that this can be treated by this approach, and I was like, oh, well, that might be interesting, So he got an answer that's not completely crazy, so, and that you off the bat can tell,
Mhm.
like this hallucination.
It's
So,
hallucination. It's
so
wrong. Yeah.
and then he said, "Oh, I didn't know about that study. Show me the references." Of course, references was completely made up. And then this guy Googled, did a traditional search, and of course, the entire research was made up. But my point is that it sounded plausible enough, and especially dangerous element to that is the tone, and that is something that I encountered with people who overrely on the language models too much, is that the authoritative tone, like of the Chat GPT, is like, I know about this. I'm the expert.
Yeah.
Like the wording is such. There's really, oh my God, I'm talking to an expert here. Pardon me, like, please tell me, well, I need to learn what you know. So, and that is especially dangerous. So it gives plausible answers. It has this tone, like really,
Authoritative. Yeah.
yeah. And it's tricky. Like, I haven't tested it on my knowledge. I mostly tested on how to approach in education. It gave me, for instance, some good creative ways to explain things. I sometimes, test. I have this idea how to explain something, and ask them to give me another version or something. So it's good starting point. But I'm aware of its limitations and know which way to go. But most people are not, and that's where we are now. We need to teach people how to use them, those models
And on
properly.
what level to trust and
Yeah,
everything, and
yeah,
how
yeah.
to double check.
Yes,
Thank you so
exactly.
much again. Perfect
Thank you.
presentation.
Do we have any additional questions? Yes. We'll just wait for a second. Yes, of course, of course. You can just mute everybody else and yell if you want something.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. This is an online question from our colleague. She stated, like, the question is, at what point does the use of AI stop and the abuse of AI begin? Specifically, how do we currently recognize when someone is using AI as a tool to
Mhm.
write a paper, and when the AI actually written the paper itself? So technically, probably the question is about frauds and how
Yeah.
you detect them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like as much as you're developing models that can write stuff for you in parallel, since we made those models, I mean, science and community, how to figure out that it's been used. It's like in school, like professors always knew. When you think about new way to cheat, professors always know that you cheated. So but it's tricky because again those are models and they're not perfect, so there is also this issue of false positives. You can use tools to actually test if something has been AI generated, and you can get, oh yeah, definitely AI generated, but maybe students just wrote it as it is. So it's tricky. I mean, those like as much as the models that generate content are limited, so are the other ones that's first search for them. So there's not perfect answer to that. I'm not sure unless you plug in those little booby traps, like intentionally, you can never be sure. But yeah, I mean, that also reminds me about one more thing that I didn't mention. Like, okay, it's all now about prompt engineering, right? But to do good prompt engineering, you need to have that domain knowledge, right? You need to know the stuff actually, and with language models, to have this to chatbots and like private tutors to help you learn, it's fine. But kid or student who's trying to learn a new subject doesn't know what to prompt, like to get the answer that it will make sense to them, right? You can do good prompting if you have the domain knowledge. So yeah, even if a professor or someone booby traps some language model to be able to spot to detect fraud, like that person probably knows this well enough, knows the abilities of these models and limitations. So yeah.
Thank you. And also, like I like the authority part.
Yeah.
Especially, I need to state the authority and the professors on math, like Janicic, Maric, Nikolic, because they're like the pioneers of this domain. So they had a big authority on all of us, like learning a lot of things to us and changing their experience to us. Also all the books and papers that they've written. Probably if there are none of them, you'll be in a little bit difficult situation because not understanding that everything that what we thought on the faculty.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean, but that's how things were some time ago, But now you get more authority when you bring in some influencer in the room, like, and they can talk about
and if
physics.
you don't have TikTok on
Yeah.
social networks, you're probably not for this world, right?
Yeah, almost. Yeah. But I mean, I'm not saying necessarily that all the professors need to, talk also on TikTok and create content. I'm just saying that they need to be aware of that, and that we need to, use that to our own advantage. We cannot go just, oh, TikTok is bad, I'm not using it. I'm gonna go through life like this and teaching like this. Like I have to be able to be a good teacher, I need to know what people on this side like, what they use, like how they learn. I need to be aware of that so that I could speak their language and then teach them in the best way for them, not for me.
So our complete educational system needs to have some
Oh yeah.
big refactoring.
Oh yeah.
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 Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm speaking from a perspective of a current student. I'm doing my master's at Faculty of Science in Novi Sad.
Oh, cool.
So I can definitely confirm that I use and my colleagues use ChatGPT, for example, and other AI tools for learning and the process of obtaining knowledge. And my question is, what about the testing of knowledge? What's your perspective on that? Do our exams need to change, or do we stick with the same? Also, this question is relevant to our professor, Dr. Marko Oskar. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, how we learn has changed, but also again testing. I mean, we relied too much on these tests for a long time now that have been passed from generation to generation. And even before the language models, like students could get the test from previous generations, right? And that's the same as now the language models having all that data and being trained on. So now we need to, and now we need to completely reinvent how we evaluate knowledge. That's why I say it's not about information, knowing information. It's about, we need to shift from that to how do you use information, like classical tests, how we have them right now. I mean, yeah,
Beginning
that
to be
doesn't work.
irrelevant.
I'm not saying it's an easy task, but really it needs to change. Like really, we need to reinvent how we evaluate information. Like we had something like that in physics at the university where I was studying. Like for instance, we had professors who would not allow textbooks in exams, on written exams, and we had professors who would allow textbooks. And which exam was more difficult? Where do you get textbooks? And the shorter the problem is, So there's a way to do that, but it needs it needs reinventing. We need to put in the effort to change that. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Behind the scene. So
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I was just wondering, how close are we to implementing like the AI as a fact checker and like checker for pseudoscience in social networks? Like, are people working on it as a plugin?
Okay. I've seen on YouTube now labels that when searching for flat earth content, that there's a shy label on top. Oh, this is not fact, and so on. So I mean, some of them are trying to mitigate that. I don't know, but all of them should do that. I don't know. I don't know how much TikTok is doing. I don't think TikTok is doing that, because I've seen people tagging me in stuff that is some conspiracy theories and the fake science. But I know some of them are doing that, and I think that's really important. I mean, Twitter also is doing something, but okay, now with Elon, I don't know. Like I would not trust anything anymore. Yeah, but it's important because that's, to be honest, that's the source of news that's my source of news, social networks. I have to be honest. I do read, intentionally intentionally read some article on some whatever portal, but everyday news, what's happening in the world. Just see some Twitter, see some TikTok, see some Instagram, so on. So that's how I get I think that's how most of us get our news. So I think that's really important.
So basically, what we can do, we can say it's spam or it's like fake information or something. As users, there's nothing else we can
as
do.
Users,
right?
that would be one way to do it. To allow us to have a button to filter out and so on. But we should do something more with that as well. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. So we're working on it, I guess.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, but that also come back to who has the authority to do it. Again, with Elon Musk, again, we're relying on these search engines or algorithms made by big companies that earn money from users. So how much do we trust them? So again, yeah, I would not rely completely on that. Critical thinking and domain knowledge. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So Tijana, I would really like to thank you for your time and for really amazing presentation. We will all follow you.
Thank you.
I mean, I already follow on Instagram. But really, thanks once again. And you guys, if you have any additional question, you can send it out to me because we need to wrap it up for this second block. We will have a break until, yeah, definitely you deserve it.